Forrest may be struggling through a snowdrift somewhere. We're looking forward to Forrest Anderson's arrival. Of course, he's a busy guy sometimes in between work at the store and then driving in from Murtaugh. That drive from Murtaugh, I did it a couple of times last winter just to drive out that way. And once the snow starts falling, it is not the easiest. But we do have Todd Eccles in studio with us from Patriot Defense. And we're talking firearms this hour of the program. We're at 20. Gosh, this temperature, I don't believe it. It says 26 on the screen here in front of me. So I'm going to look at my telephone, which I think might even give me another one. I've been seeing temperatures. Yeah, my telephone says Twin Falls is 35 right now. I am seeing this frequently where you're getting three different forecasts and there'll be a swing of 8 to 9 degrees. I think that if you go up near the canyon, it might be colder, for instance. If you're
Yeah.
near the airport, colder. But one of the places they do the weather forecasting at, or they take the temperature, is the Greyhound bus terminal across from the Red Lion up on Blue Lakes Boulevard.
No, really.
And I would think it's probably a little warmer there because
Yeah.
you're not near the canyon.
Am I the only one that got up at like 2 o'clock this morning and walked outside and went, "This is good running weather."
Yes. Clear sky, right?
It was clear sky and it was warm. It was pretty warm this morning. It really was.
I
Felt good.
just you talk about when you go out running though, and of course, if you're out in the dark, you never know who's out there at that hour of the morning.
Right.
I just saw today on Associated Press has a story out of Utah where the legislator who was behind the crackdown on drinking and driving, you now get a DUI there for they halved the amount of blood alcohol down to 0.05%. But he says he needs to tweak the law. He wants an amendment passed this year that would allow people to return fire, defend themselves with a firearm, even if they are at 0.05 alcohol. In other words, they'd be considered legally drunk. He says they should be allowed. He said, even when you're drunk, if someone's trying to kill you, you should be allowed to defend yourself.
Yeah, I think you should be able to be allowed to defend yourself, but I mean, you don't have to drink, okay? So you go and you drink, there might be a little bit of, you might not make the best choices right then and there. I still don't think firearms and alcohol, in my mind, never mix.
Just because, aiming is going to become a difficult thing.
Well, you could be a danger to someone else aiming.
Right.
You could be a danger to yourself. I mean, you've got to draw this firearm. You've got to, stuff happens. What if you drop the firearm? You grab it just wrong. It goes off. It shoots you. It shoots someone else. Can you get it out of the holster? I mean, just a whole slew of things come to mind that it could be trouble.
I was going to say, for a lot of people out there, um, I've heard stories about people going out target shooting after they've had a snootful, and luckily no one got hurt, but still trying to aim at a target that might be a couple of 100 yards away even.
Well, and you got to look at it this way. I mean, I don't drink and never have, but everyone's affected. I know people who do. Everyone's affected differently by alcohol. Some people may be fine. Some people not so much. And
Right.
so that your decision making skills are impaired. And then you've been drinking, you have a little alcohol in you, then maybe you actually escalate the situation, and if you're allowed to use a firearm, you pull your firearm out and use it, and you've actually escalated to begin with, and that's no good for anyone either.
We have a caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX.
Yeah, g'day, mate. I'm not a barrister, certainly not. But I suppose I have had some dealings with the legal system, both sides of the pond here. Civil matter, not criminal. But I'd say that most people that I know, when you go out to a pub or something and you do have a permit to carry, I'd say that's where most of the problems happen, and you might just be there having your beer. Somebody wants to take up an issue with you. I don't see that drunkenness is a defense in most criminal proceedings out of English common law. I see some problems with the legislator from Utah saying, well, you're 0.05. Most people wouldn't say you're drunk then anyway. I think it's a stupid law. Americans seem to have this love-hate relationship with alcohol, going back to Prohibition. Most people drink, and they don't have a problem. But 0.05, I can say, well, legal limit's legal limit. If you're drunk in Utah, not here in Idaho, certainly not down under, then you'd say, well, sorry, you're drunk. There goes your defense, matey. A lot of problems with it. A lot of conflicting problems.
I thank you for the call. I tend to agree to some degree with him, and I'll tell you why. If someone is attacking you, and you've been at home and you've had a six pack, and someone attacks you, are you going to let yourself be stabbed to death, even if you get in trouble by pulling out a pistol and firing back? You may find yourself in a lot of trouble, but you may decide being locked up for a while is a better alternative than being buried.
I think the scenario really dictates where the acceptability comes from. If you're going to go out to the bar and you're going to choose to drink that night,
Sure.
and you've got a gun on you, you're up for problems. I DJ every weekend, so I get to see the poor decisions that alcohol makes people make every weekend. People change completely. Their personalities change. Their decision-making changes. Everything changes. However, if you're in your own home and you're drinking and someone attacks you in your home, you absolutely have every right to defend yourself because you didn't choose the battleground.
Right. So first of all, I'm gonna say in Idaho there is no, as far as as the law enforcement officer teaches in my class, as far as what I know, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe they're wrong, and someone can correct me. There is no necessary limit as far as in Idaho as you have to blow this to not be able to carry a firearm. It's one sip. If they can smell it on your breath, that's no, you have alcohol, you've taken one sip, that's, according to Idaho law, that's too much. You can't carry a firearm with you. But if you're at home, I could be wrong. If you're at home, and I don't know the exact answer to this, and you've been drinking and you defend yourself in your home, I don't think there's an actual law that says you can't drink and have your firearm at your house and defend yourself with that. I think it's when you're out in public and you're at a restaurant, a bar, something like that.
I know that I was in Ogden one time and I was shopping in the Walmart, and I noticed they had a rack of beer in there. But in Utah, the law is quite specific. If you're selling beer in a grocery store, it has to be a very what you call it's almost watered down. It's a 3-2, I think they call it, and so somebody, I think an average sized man, could probably drink a few of those and not even think he was drunk. But the problem, I think, would become when someone is really just, if you're so drunk you don't know which end is up, then how do you even know you're being attacked if someone is approaching you? So I think that we've got to figure out a way around having a hard number saying it's 0.05% blood alcohol level.
Yeah, is it and people react differently.
Yep.
Some people can have 12 beers and you would never even know they're drinking. Other people can have 2 glasses of wine and they're knuckleheads. So
relatives like that.
It really depends. However, I think that another thing that people can do is be careful where you go. Your odds of having trouble going certain places are completely different than going others. So kind of choose, if you're going to go out with your friends, make good decisions. Go good places that are generally safe. And that doesn't always protect you. A few years ago, there was in Canyon Crest. That's a pretty nice place. I know people that own and run that place. They run a really nice establishment. There was an attack there a few years ago, which was very unfortunate. Someone was killed. So there isn't any guessing that, but your odds are definitely lower.
We have another caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on Top Story on KLIX.
Hi, this is very important. The guns these play guns look very real, and a lot of kids that are bigger kids, they go out and play cops and robbers, and the sheriffs get notified there's somebody with a gun, and the sheriffs go out there, and the kid comes around the corner, and kid gets blown away with a shotgun.
That happened in Cleveland, Ohio, just a couple of years ago.
Yep, it did. I actually have a it's a BB gun. I use it's kind of like a blue gun, but it's not blue. But I went and got it, and it actually doesn't even have an orange tip on it or anything. It looks exactly like one of my other handguns. It's pretty crazy how close they look. And so yeah, you definitely need to be careful if your kids are into airsoft or that kind of stuff. Keep them at home. Don't let them run around town with it necessarily. People could call it in, and bad things could happen.
I was going to say, just don't take your toy gun out while you're drunk.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
You'll end up with some serious issues. Even though when I was a little kid, I'm going back 50 years ago, we had toy revolvers. They always had that. Well, it was a paint that looked like chrome, or but to some degree they could look real. And some of these things were big. I mean, they weren't. Today now, a lot of those toys would be plastic for the kids, and they might be a pink or But even then, you have real firearms now that are pink and purple.
Yeah, this actually brings up. I actually did a post on my Patriot Defense Facebook page earlier in the week. I was reading something someone wrote about this, and it makes complete sense. And what they said was, a lot of people will their kids will have squirt guns, they'll have airsoft guns, yada yada yada, and they keep them, teach them how to be safe with those. Finger off the trigger, don't point them at people. You know what? Let kids be kids to a certain extent, but you need to teach them the difference between a toy gun and a real gun. Teach them the difference. Kids are going to be kids. They're going to pick up a stick and point it at someone and go bang, bang, bang in the backyard. That's the way it's going to be. They're going to pick up a squirt gun and they're going to shoot their brother or their sister with it. But you need to teach them the difference between the two, a toy and a real gun, what the differences are and how to deal with each type.
And maybe don't point it at the policeman.
Well, yeah, that too.
It's a different world. I mean, we need to accept that it's a different world. Some of these airsoft guns, I had an airsoft gun in my pawn shop, and every regular gun guys that are gun guys were like, how much is that AK? It looked exactly like a real AK. You could not tell the difference, folding stock, the whole nine. So they look real. And for a law enforcement officer responding to a situation, there's no way for him to look at that and tell.
We have another caller. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on Top Story on KLIX with Todd and Forrest and Bill answering the telephones. Go ahead.
Good morning. I hope you all had a good Christmas. I called a couple weeks ago about felons, ex-felons possessing firearms. And I wanted to say it's interesting what I found out when I researched it. On the form 7743, where it says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? If you look at the instructions for that question, which it directs you to do, in italics at the end of that, it says there's an exception to those who've had their firearms rights restored after a felony, and that they should answer no to that question. It's right there in the instructions.
However, the word restored means something completely different, because the feds aren't going to know your rights restored until they forward that information, until the state of Idaho forwards that to them. And when when we call that in, they're going to deny you initially the first time. They're going to say you can't, and then they're going to send the sheriff to your house. However, if your rights have been restored, they'll work that out with you, and then you can appeal that denial. They'll give you a number. You fax that in to the feds. You talk to them. Then the state of Idaho will forward the information that your rights have been restored. But they do not do that until there's been a request for firearms ownership. We've dealt with that several. We've dealt with that several times.
Want to take a short break? I do thank him for chiming back in this week. This is how we get questions answered, and we get some detail out there for folks.
And we appreciate the caller doing some research on the 4473.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. That's a good idea. 20 minutes after 9 o'clock, we've got a short break. Joining us in studio, Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. We're at 27. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. In studio with us this morning, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We need to get a little contact information. Christmas has passed, but a lot of people might still be looking for some gifts going into the new year, or for some things they need going into the new year. Forrest?
Yeah, we've got a ton of stuff going on right now at the pawn shop. Actually, big news. I've been kind of holding this. I've been working on it for about 2 months. Is I actually just bought the shop this week. It's been a lot of stress. It's been a lot of work to get the deal done. But
stress is a good word.
I had some people step up to help me to make it possible. So yeah, it's officially my responsibility now, and I'm excited about it. So we'd love to have people come down and support us, borrow some money from us, buy some stuff from us, order in some guns. We've had a great season for special gun orders. We've ordered a ton of guns in for people, and we've saved them a lot of money. I just had a gentleman who couldn't get some guns another place. He had about $1,000 racked up there, and he came to us, bought the exact same items, and saved $200. So yeah, come down and see us. We'll save you some money, and we'll take good care of you.
We're getting into a new year. That means some new courses for training.
Yeah. My next class is on January 13th for the permit, the enhanced permit. I've still got plenty of room left. I've actually taken like 4 phone calls this morning starting at like 7 o'clock this morning, which is fine. I'm up at 2 or 3, so call me or text me whenever you want, I suppose. But yeah, if you want to get a hold of me and ask questions or get signed up, you can call me, text me, area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. Look me up on Facebook under Patriot Defense, like the page, keep everyone updated there. And if, I don't know, I think I posted it on my Facebook page. I probably here later on this spring, I got kind of a neat deal. Going to have a class type situation with, I'm going to say her name wrong, Glenita Zeiderveld.
Right.
And we're going to be doing maybe some stuff with her out there at my place, and I'll just keep you guys updated as soon as we get that kind of more concrete. But that'll be kind of a fun situation we got out there. So
I was going to say you're doing the actual. You're going inside though for the range in January.
yes, yeah. I got the range. Unless it turns 80 degrees. I was pretty warm this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
But I think I probably got probably because all the snow gets blown in that range. I probably got like 8 inches of snow down in there.
You'll have to get one of these big type of military tents and just put it over the outdoor range.
It'd blow away. I'm too close to the canyon, man. Everything blows away. So yeah, no, I got the indoor range I reserved, so we're good to go on that route. And as long as we don't get a bunch of wind and a bunch more snow, everyone can make it down my driveway.
I got this while I was on vacation, and it came up in my Facebook messaging, and it came from Todd, and it was from Breitbart, and New York Times editorial recommending that they got on board with a gun buyback in New Haven, Connecticut, and sponsored by something called Raw Tools Inc. And these people break apart firearms, and then they build them into safer things. But the writer says even a cursory glance at Raw Tools' website shows that the company believes Christians are commanded to be sitting ducks. They praise the idea of being a soft target. A post called "Blessed Are the Soft Targets" rejects efforts to arm ushers and congregants to protect the weak and frail from attack. I don't know who these people are, but I think they got screws loose.
More than one.
It's you can look at that any way you want, but I mean, a human being has the right to defend themselves. We have the right to own, our personal property. We have our right to those things. It's no one's right because they don't agree with the way you think. They don't to come and take those things from you, and certainly not your life. I mean, that's what this country is founded on. That's why people came here initially, was to be able to have some personal freedoms, be able to make some decisions for themselves. If people don't have the ability to make decisions for themselves, I think there's some rest homes that you could probably check yourself into, or they'll tell you when it's dinner time. They'll tell you when it's time to take your medicine, when it's time to go to bed, when it's time to go up. I certainly don't want to live in that world. But, people are
nuts,
crazy.
So, this says Christians are soft targets. Well, if you're a Christian, you go to church, depending on what you believe. We believe that we're all God's children, right? And we should, not roll over and play dead. We should, not go over and go out and look for someone to shoot, but protect your brothers, protect your sisters. Have a firearm there. Protect yourself. That's only the right thing to do.
No, we had a police department actually in Twin Falls did a program for churches on safety following Texas, and brought people in, different pastors, to talk to them about the ideas.
I think, Twin Falls PD has been really interactive. I know that there's a lot of people have been frustrated because there have been a lot of burglary cases lately. You have to realize these detectives have a stack of cases on their desk that we can't believe. They're probably getting 20 new cases a day to deal with right now. But they've been really great about, especially with situations like that, working with the community, working with the churches, educating them. Like Todd said, if you're really a Christian, you will step up and defend the life of your family and the life of your neighbors. But if you're going to make that choice to do that, please make the choice to know what you're doing.
Yep.
Go to some professionals, get some training, buy a decent, reliable firearm, and then know how to use it. It doesn't stop at, I bought a gun, now I'm willing to defend people. You might think you know how to use it, but until you've been to a class with some real people that really know what they're doing, you'll find out that maybe there were some things that you didn't understand yet, and some techniques you didn't know yet.
I have at my last class that I did, I had there was a pasture showed up, and he brought like 6 or 7 of his parishioners, and it was kind of his own, I guess, church. Those who were interested in being involved in it, kind of as a church security type force. The people that were interested in helping you step up if they ever had to. Keep an eye out for that sort of thing. And he stated to me that he could see in the future that insurance companies requiring that there was that they have some kind of security force in place. He says he can see that coming. And a lot of churches are. He's not the only church group I've had show up at my house or show up at one of my classes. I had one come in. They just wanted me to say, these guys are the guys that are going to carry guns at church. Evaluate them. Tell me what do they need to work on, or do I need to watch out for this guy, or who needs what kind of training?
I know that we have some big lanky cowboys at church that, even though I don't think there's an official policy, these guys generally will have a sport coat on, or I know what they may be packing underneath, so I do tend to sit near them.
I would.
We have a short break. We've got more coming up with Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pond, and Bill Colley on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. More of your telephone calls. We're at 30 right now. I've got another story here about the 5 worst fake news reports on guns from this year. That's on the way in just a few minutes. Our studio guest, Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pond, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, Bill Colley as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And we talk firearms on Fridays between 9 and 10 o'clock. That's what we're doing today. If you've got a question or comment about a particular model, about training, feel free to call. Comment about anything we've been talking about, too, as well. That number is 208-736-0300, 208-736-0300. I got to hand it to a publication called The Daily Signal, which is part of the Heritage Foundation in Washington, which is run by, I think, or he may have left now, but the former Senator Jim DeMint used to be in charge of this. They've put together the 5 worst fake news reports on guns in 2017. And the first one they picked, USA Today and its chainsaw bayonet on the AR-15, which they point out, first of all, if it's an electric chainsaw, you got to have a place to plug it in, which limits your range with your AR. It also points out that a lot of people went to Twitter and they started posting pictures. One guy's got a nuclear missile attached to it. Another guy's got the USS Kitty Hawk, and then there's San Antonio, Texas attached to an AR-15.
With that chainsaw, you could hunt deer and get firewood all in the same trip.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, awesome.
But, the people were pointing out that a chainsaw would be heavy. So, if you attach a chainsaw to the bottom of an AR-15, first of all, what would be the point? But people were freaking out who saw this, thinking that somehow this was going to be used in attacks somewhere around the country. And then it took somebody on the outside to finally tell them, this doesn't make any sense.
Because chainsaw attacks are so prolific, and that's a
Yes.
big problem.
Yeah.
Someone at the movie theater one time.
I'd like to add those up over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Here's another one. CNN did a story after a shooting. It says, after the horrifying shooting of Republican members of Congress on a softball field, CNN did a story called Where Does the GOP Baseball Shooting Leave the Gun Control Debate? But they only interviewed the Brady campaign to prevent gun violence. They didn't talk to anybody who has pro-Second Amendment views.
Because why get both sides of the story?
Well, yeah.
Why interview someone that's going to disagree with you?
The agenda.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of their viewers might see it and think that guy's making sense.
Exactly.
So they can't have that. And then it runs down some of the usual suspects at CNN who are involved in that. Here's another. NBC. This was number 3. In a story published 5 years after Sandy Hook, NBC reports that Congress has passed no new gun control laws. And then there's some more writing here, but this is what the conclusion is. The reason Congress doesn't pass more laws is that not one has ever been proven to reduce gun crime.
I can agree with that.
I think that's something that often people don't see, right?
The nanny state does not work. I mean, you can see that in all these, and they try to battle the statistics and say, well, statewide it doesn't really prove out to be true. Chicago is a difficult place to own firearms.
Yeah.
And it is an easy place to get murdered.
Look, someone, I don't have it in front of me, look up the statistics for Chicago over probably just the last month, and it's probably just mind-blowing. on gun deaths.
It's frightening, but it doesn't work like that. What you need to do is you need to get rid of the crime. You need to get rid of the criminals. I remember going to New York City when I had a different mayor, and it was a nice, clean place. Times Square was really clean and nice. It was really safe. I took my boys around. It's not that kind of place right now. There's a lot of crime, a lot of prostitution, a lot of drugs, all happening right there in the center of the city, in the showpiece of the city. It's really changed because they've changed certain laws. Now the police, their hands are tied in most cases. Like, unless somebody actually, they could look at someone and say, that guy's probably got a gun illegally, or that guy's up to illegal activities, and they could stop him and do something about it, stop and frisk. Now they can't do that. Now they just have to watch that guy walk past them.
15 years ago, I was at a church retreat in New York City, and there was a young man who buzzed people in and out the door. That was still a pretty good idea in New York, buzz people in and out. But he was a young black man, and Beatty had been telling us that blacks in New York City didn't like Rudolph Giuliani, that they didn't like his approach to crime. And so I got talking with this kid, and he says, man, things were a lot better here when Giuliani was mayor. I said, what do you mean? He says, we didn't have to deal with those squeegee guys. He said, the crime was under control. And I said, but I've been told every time I turn on the TV news that your community doesn't. He said, are you kidding? He said, we're the people who have to put up with most of that stuff. And so it tells you that sometimes we're not getting the full story of how people feel about this. If you had less restrictive laws on gun ownership in places like Detroit and Chicago, people would be allowed to defend themselves a lot more readily, and that would give that criminal some time to think, do I do this or not? And maybe say not.
Criminals, mass shooters, all these people choose soft targets. You don't see them like strolling up to a police station and kicking down a door, and they don't do that. They go to schools, they go to places where they know they're not going to be confronted with anything. They always choose soft targets because they're cowards, and that's the way they operate. So, if you could train and educate people, and then people chose to defend themselves, they'd be a lot more choosy where they went to do that, or they might not do it at all.
We've got more coming up. Save those telephone calls. We've got a short break. We'll get to your calls just after the break. 20 minutes away from 10 o'clock right now. We're at 29 in our studio, but it's probably 10 degrees warmer everywhere else in the listening area. Our guests in studio, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. We also have, want to point out, Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, which is officially his shop today. We should point out that it was your shop, but
I've run that shop.
You hold the mortgage now.
For some people for the last 9 years, and they were great to me, and we were able to come to an agreement, and then I had some people step up to help me make it happen. It means a lot to me, and anyway, it's exciting that now we really. I mean, I can't even say. I'm just so excited about it. I'm so grateful for all the people in the Valley that have come in and support us. We had a great Christmas season, and people really have been very supportive of local business. They've been very supportive of me and my boys, and it. I just can't say enough how much I appreciate the patronage that people have showed us.
And it's at a great location too, as well. And we want to point out our first caller in this segment is on the line with us. Telephone number if you'd like to reach us: 208-736-0300. Caller, you're up next. You're on KLIX.
Hey, Bill, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
You too, Paul. Thank you.
Hey, this good conversation you guys are having. I'm sorry I haven't been able to call you sooner, but I've been dealing with CenturyLink here in Ohio, and they're a pain in the butt.
They are here really too.
Suck.
Trust me.
I had to call the Ohio Public Utilities Commission just to get the phone service that I needed here to get computers hooked up, and because I'm back in the house I grew up in. So, and my parents didn't have computers and stuff like that, so I've had to update stuff in the house. But talking about these guns, I think anyone that's going to purchase a weapon for protection in their home needs to be trained, because one of the things that, when I went through the State Police Academy, that the guy asked right out of the get-go. He said, if you're going to own a weapon and you're not willing to use that weapon to shoot someone, then you need to step out of this class because your job is going to entail that. And I apply that to anyone that owns a weapon in their home, that if they're going to buy that weapon, they better be prepared to use it if somebody breaks into that house. Because if you point a weapon at someone and you don't pull that trigger, they're liable to take that weapon away from you and use it on you. So, I mean, you have to be prepared in your own mind that if somebody breaks in your house with the intent to do whatever, that you better be prepared if you have to shoot them to go ahead and do it.
Now, we were talking earlier, Paul, about Utah having a discussion about allowing people, even if they're considered legally drunk, to defend themselves with a firearm. Currently, they can get in some serious trouble for that. But I think in your own home, I don't think anyone would have any gripe about the fact that you might be legally drunk if someone breaks in and you shoot them if they're threatening you, right?
Right. I mean, you have a right to protect your home. And just like you guys were talking earlier about Chicago, you can't blame the weapon. It's the person that's using that weapon that's in charge of that thing. I mean, anything can be a weapon. What are we going to do? Take knives out of the kitchen, baseball bats away from the kids? I mean, how far do you want to go with this? It's just a ridiculous comment to make that we need to ban guns from people carrying them wherever they go. I think it's just a big mistake, and I am a proponent of people being allowed to carry their weapons as long as they're trained to use them, and they're going to use them for the right way.
Paul, I got to let you run, but thank you for tuning in today.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to finally talk to you, Bill.
Well, I want to thank him for calling, and I'll just let people in on a little story here. Paul is a retiree from the United States military and also served as a police officer for many, many years. And he has moved back home to his hometown of Warren, Ohio, which used to be the tire capital of the world, and some of the first airplanes that were ever manufactured in the country came out of there as well. So he's got a lot of knowledge about how this all works. But I want to thank him for chiming in today.
I agree with 100% with what Paul said. If you own a firearm, if you go out and you're buying a firearm to defend yourself, to carry with you, maybe not to carry with you, but maybe just to keep in your house for protection, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to, there's a unspoken responsibility there that if you're going to buy one to possibly use this in self-defense, you need to go out and get some training. You need to search out some training of some kind. There is a responsibility that people need to have. A responsibility to learn how to use it correctly. Even if it's not a permit class, learn how to use it correctly, learn how to take care of it, learn how to handle it safely, learn how to shoot it, become really proficient with it, or at the very least somewhat proficient with it.
I think it's interesting to note, the more that you train and the more that you learn, the less the firearm becomes the only option to you. Like, you learn how to de-escalate situations and evaluate situations more because you're more comfortable with that firearm, and you're more comfortable if the situation arises, I'll be fine. Whereas people that aren't comfortable with it, that's the first thing they go to, and they're not comfortable thinking out any other situations.
They're not ready for it.
No, they're not ready. Where if you've got some training, you're like, I'll be ready if the time comes, but until then I'm gonna be able to de-escalate.
Even the aspect of having your firearm and having it there and using and going out and getting the training, learning how to use it, that's important too. But you need to think about, and you'll learn about this in a lot of classes, the mental aspect that goes into it. Why maybe you don't want to shoot someone. If there's a way to de-escalate it, you need to de-escalate it without using the firearm, without pulling that trigger. Shooting someone is going to change your life. It's going to change their life. It's going to change your life. I mean, that's going to be with you forever. And that sounds funny coming from the gun guy, someone who trains people to use firearms. But I will always say in my class, a firearm is always a tool of last resort. It is there if you have nothing else. But if you can avoid a situation or de-escalate a situation or get out of it somehow without actually having to pull that trigger, that is what you want to do. Too many people who don't have that kind of education or haven't thought that through think, I'm just going to pull out my gun and pull the trigger and it's going to all end and it's going to be perfect. That's not the way it works. That's when your troubles really start.
There'll be implications legally, financially.
Yep.
There's a lot of strings tied
That's
to
when
that
it just
decision.
begins.
Always.
Yep.
It begins.
We have a caller with us. Caller, thank you for your patience. You're up next. We're about 10 minutes from 10 o'clock. Go ahead.
Hey, Forrest, this is Rick. I'm not going to use my last name. You know who I am, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I just barely was able to tune in. It sounds like you got your deal put together.
Absolutely.
Good. Forrest, I just wanted to give you and the community a heads up. I've bought a hum more than 2 firearms from Forrest. Is that accurate, Forrest?
That's very accurate.
Forrest Anderson and the guys over there, he's always been more than fair with me. He's very competitive. And I would just urge anyone that was going to buy a firearm to at least give Forrest a look and give him a chance, because it's just, sometimes pawn shops don't have the best reputation, but Forrest and his sons and then his employees have just always treated me more than fair, and I just wanted to give you a shout out and congratulations, big guy.
I appreciate that, Rick.
That's all. Go ahead.
Rick is about as solid as man as ever meet. He's good in the community. He's good to his neighbors. He's been really good to us. We appreciate him coming in and checking us out. And, one thing he'll tell you is if you come in the shop, we might rag you a little bit, but it's all out of love.
Well, so he says anyway.
I want to thank Rick for chiming in. We're at 9:52. Speaking of which, we should probably tell people how they can get to the store.
321 Washington Street is our address. We're 3 blocks south of Addison on Washington Street. Red and white building. You come inside, we're not, a lot of people walk inside, they're like, I thought this place would be bigger. And, we are a pawn shop, so we've got everything from lawnmowers to jewelry to guns to computers. So there's a little bit of everything in there. But if you come in, we'll answer your questions. We'll find out, what you need to carry the gun for. You want a home defense, you want it for hunting, and then we'll help you find whatever will fit your needs best. And there's a lot of sales that people aren't aware of until they come in, and we can look online, and there's some really good deals out there. Generally, nobody beats us on price. Some of the big box stores sometimes have some crazy sales, but where we try to beat people is on service. Like I said, you're going to walk in the store, you're like, oh, this isn't as big as I thought, and Forrest is definitely not as attractive as he sounds on the radio.
I think that goes for all of us.
Anyway, that being said, you'll come in but when service really comes down to not when you buy the firearm, but when you need something after the sale. And we can be very competitive on price, but we try to really whip people on service. We'll take care of you. All of our guns come with a lifetime warranty. We'll take great care of you.
We wanted to mention again, you've got another course coming up.
I do. So go down to Washington Street Pawn, buy a gun from Forrest, pick up my business card, and then let's get you in a class. Let's get you in, if it's your first time owning a firearm, let's get you in a beginner's class. A class for even your family, if maybe you're new to having firearms in your house. Call me. I can set something up. Maybe you are getting your firearm and you want to get your enhanced permit. Call me up. I have my next enhanced permit class on January 13th. Plenty of room. Call me or text me if you're interested. That's area code 620-794-6223. It's area code 620-794-6223. And that class is, I set those up, the permit classes for certain dates. Any other class, call me and we can work something out and I can set something up. And I just want to throw this out there, and I always let all my classes know, and I don't know if I've actually ever said it on the radio. If you have questions about anything, a firearm, a holster, you need clarification on a law, anything, any questions concerning guns, concealed carry, whatever, just text me, call me, email me, find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense, send me a message. I'll answer those questions. I have no problem. I like helping people. Definitely get a hold of me, and I'll do what I can to get you your answer.
I also got to mention one thing I forgot. I put it on our Facebook page, but at Washington Street Pawn right now, we're having dartboard discount days. So I've got a dartboard up there. I've got some darts. So whatever you want to buy, you throw a dart at that dartboard. Whatever you hit, that will be your percentage off. So if you hit the bullseye, it's 50% off.
Are you holding the dartboard up?
I'm not running around with it. The dartboard is stationary.
Okay.
The other thing I want to tell people about is, my side thing I've done for years and years. I'm a DJ. I DJ weddings and parties and all kinds of stuff. This Sunday night, New Year's Eve, if you're looking for something really cool to do, come out to Elevation 486. We're having a big New Year's Eve party. It's going to be a masquerade ball. So it's a chance to really get dressed up. or get dressed up as much as you want. But it's a chance for your old lady or girlfriend or whatever your situation is to wear that nice dress that she's been waiting to wear. Slap on some heels. You can clean up a little bit, put some clothes, some nice suit on or something. Come out. We're having fireworks. It's going to be a great night. Starts at 9 o'clock on New Year's Eve at Elevation 486.
I should show up dressed like I'm on the radio.
Yeah, you look
I
fabulous today,
I look
Tom.
like a radio guy.
I was thinking I'd get one of those Mexican wrestler masks. And
Oh, that would be awesome. That would work for a masquerade ball.
I like it.
on the other hand, they might think I was there to stick the place up.
I think I've got a onesie
Not-
that I could wear,
Yeah.
a wrestling onesie.
We
somewhere.
could all go like that. Nacho Libre.
Yeah.
Yes. We want to point out we got a couple of minutes to go before we wrap up. And we did not eat. It's interesting to get through an entire show and not mention Jerome County. But hey, we may have answered all the questions there. Just a quick note, a couple of other these things on these fake news gun stories this year. Number 4 came from a publication called The Economist, which tried to claim that if we continued the ban on the AR-15, that we would not have had some of the problems we've recently had. But the writer at Heritage says the ban expired because Congress determined it was not effective, which goes back to one of these earlier stories. And finally, the Associated Press at number 5. Everyone in news business has some reference to Associated Press now and then. It said they claimed that authorities had recovered a 40-millimeter pistol.
That's a big pistol.
Really big pistol, because normally that's a cannon or a grenade launcher.
Well, can you attach the 40-millimeter pistol onto the front of the AR-15? That would be cool.
Apparently, they had to be told there's a difference between 40 cal and 40 millimeter.
Yeah, 40 Mike, that'd be a heck of a handgun. I don't know if I'd want to pack that around
I was
very
gonna
far.
say, I know people that can't shoot 40 cal. Most people can't, so I could only see someone trying to shoot a 40 millimeter.
You have to take the backyard hammock and use it as a holster.
There you
Yeah,
go.
or mount it to the top of your car.
No, that would be fun. Mad Max times.
Yes.
Drive it out into Waihee County. Who'd know the difference?
Exactly.
Yeah. Nothing to shoot out there, but at least it would look pretty going down some of those dirt roads. We've got to say goodbye. Quick note. Anything else about New Year's?
I'm trying to envision where I'm going to conceal my gun if I wear my Nacho Libre leotard. I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, if you wear a tall sombrero and hide it under there, they'll say it's
Exactly.
Small
cultural
of the back,
appropriation.
and I'll wear a cape.
Yes. There you go. We've got a short break coming up for news, and then the Rush Limbaugh program will be coming up. God willing, if the creek don't rise, that'll allow me to come back and do this all over again Tuesday morning. And we're going to be joined in studio Tuesday morning or by telephone by State Representative Christy Zitto as we continue our series with various legislators as we have a preview of the upcoming legislative session.